I'm walking through the woods and I see the outline of a human, and that human is is a male. I can tell by seeing him from afar, and he has a lot of tumescence from his face, and so I look over and I know that's Doug. Because I can recognize Doug from afar because he's very distinctive looking at a distance. When I see Walt at a distance, I can tell it's Walt. He's tall, he walks slowly and purposefully. When I see Terry, I can tell her from a distance because she's talking to someone. What I'm getting at is everybody has a profile, or I have a search image of a lot of people here. I also have a search, and you can really recognize this at a distance. Those people that don't know Noah Siegel, Noah's over here. He's visiting. He's from Massachusetts, and he goes all over the country talking about mushrooms. And he's a big shot, so ask him a lot of questions later on. And Noah's a fantastic photographer too. Noah's friend Alyssa is here from Seattle, Washington. She can tell you about Pacific Northwest mushrooms. And so there's different people here today, and take advantage of that a little bit for as long as you stay. We drove around all day yesterday, and we were identifying mushrooms out the window of the car. Just exactly the way I just told you. If I'm walking down the street or driving down the street and I can see a bolete off in the woods, and everybody can do that, just the way everybody can identify their friends by certain things. So I want to talk about how you do that when you have a mushroom. And I'm going to have Connie follow up with the way she does it too, because everybody has a different style. So when I see a mushroom, first thing I like to do is I look at the habitat. What trees are around? Oak, birch. I want to know the trees because all these mushrooms, for the most part, that I love so much, are associated with trees. The vegetative part of this mushroom underground is interfaced with the rootlets of these trees, and they're exchanging nutrients and water and pleasantries. Just want to see if anybody's listening. That's right. They're not really exchanging pleasantries. So I want to look at the habitat because I know that lots of these mushrooms like certain trees, like oaks. This mushroom is often the biggest mushroom in the forest, so you want it to be edible, don't you? And it's not. This is one of the bitter boletes, Tilapilus rubro-bruneus. It's nasty and funky and bitter, but if you don't have the bitter taste bud, if you're genetically deficient in that way, you could eat this. It's that dangerous. Beautiful mushroom right here. The lead violet bolete, or Tilapilus plumbeo violaceus. Look at that beautiful purple color. You want it to be bitter. I mean, you want it to be edible, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not. It's bitter. So that's one of the sad facts of life. Beautiful things. You can't always eat them. But this mushroom right here, it's dark and stormy, and it's funky. It's black. This is a fantastic edible. This is Tilapilus alboator. Really has a nice, chunky, meaty texture. Unmistakable the way the pores stain. When I look at boletes, what I'm looking for is the color of the pores, what color they stain when I scrape them with the point of my knife or my fingernail. I'm looking to see if the flesh will change color when I break the flesh, like this Gyroporus cyanescens. It's the big drama mushroom, you know, so you break this and everybody's, ooh, wow, I'll never forget that one. So it's Smurf food in a way, and this is also a good edible too. But it's rare. In Connecticut anyway, it's fairly rare. So you look for the flesh changing color, you look for the staining, what shape are the pores. You should have a jeweler's loop or a botanist's loop if you like mushrooms, so you can look at all these things. When I moved down here into Terry's world, the Lactarius, and we encourage everybody in the club to take up a specialty, and Terry's our Lactarius expert, Frank is our Rusula expert. So when you look at guild mushrooms, you want to look at how they attach to the stem. Does that gill go in a straight line and attach to the stem? Is it free from the stem? Is there a little space between the gill and the beginning of the stem, like in the Amanita over there? Or does it have a little notch on it? All those things are part of the filter that you're going to use mentally to be able to identify mushrooms by yourself after you leave the forest. Anybody a Doors fan? Doors, music group? Doors?
Sure.
Sorry, anybody my age?
Yeah.
All right, so when the music's over, you know that song, When the Music's Over? When the foray's over. So that's what this talk is about. When the foray's over, you want to go home and think about what you saw today. And pick out a few mushrooms that you saw today that knocked you out a little bit, knocked your socks off just a little bit. And then if you have a field guide, read about it. Or go take one home and learn that mushroom. Learn how to make a spore print. You know, you want to know what color the spores are. That's the first big filter you're going to use to tell you what genus this mushroom might be in. So you're going to pick a mushroom, you want to know what the spore color is. So you find this mushroom, you want to know what it is, you smell it, you look at the gill attachment, you cut the stem off, and then you put the stem on a piece of white paper, or better yet, a piece of glass, and then you put a cup over the top, or a glass over the top, and you leave it for 3 or 4 or 5 hours, and all the spores will drop out from between the spaces in the gills, and they'll make this little spoked pattern on the paper, and you can see the color of the spore print. So
You don't have to put a drop of water on it.
you don't have to do anything except cover it. Cut it and cover it, and then the humidity will change because it's covered, and those spores will start popping out, and so you can get a spore print. And you can make spore art if you want. And people do that, spore art. So I want to ask, just if anybody has a question about, I'll do 3 of these boletes on this table, and you ask me a question, and then I'll be done. But we have a beautiful bolete collection here. Practically every genus of all the different genera of what we call the boletes, the fleshy pored fungi, and great examples. This beautiful bolete, Tylopolis vileotinctus, is another one that's kind of bitter, but it's beautiful. Lots of these are out right now, and in a week they're going to rot away. They rot very quickly. They're called putrescent, and you can see what putrescent means if I show you this. This is attacked by a mold or something called a hypomesis. It happens really quick. In a few days, this would have been just a puddle of maggots, which is really cool if you happen to like that kind of thing. But. So, you like beauty? Here's beauty. Boletes oripes, the golden foot, beautiful mushroom. I've eaten this before. This mushroom got me sick. Really great eating little guy that's out in huge numbers right now is the chestnut bolete. This beautiful little light, delicate bolete, Gyroporus castaneus. It has a hollow stem. Good way to identify it. It grows with hardwoods for the most part. Little teensy tiny round pores on the underside, on the undersurface. Really a nice taste and edible. Doesn't get really huge.
What was that? Gyroporus what?
Castaneus and chestnut bolete. Frost bolete can be one of the most beautiful of all the boletes. Some of these mushrooms, their Latin name tells you about it, like Boletes oripes, golden foot. Others are named for people. Frost bolete is named for a mycologist named Frost. So the closest thing we have to the famous Porcini or Sepp or Steinpelt's Boletes edulis is this group, the Boletes nobilis group. And this is sort of the classic kind of mushroom that if you go into a restaurant and they tell you you're getting porcini, it's probably something around a cluster of 16 or 17 species, fairly close to this. This one smells like curry. This is Boletes sensibilis, or sensibilis, and use your nose when you're learning about mushrooms. Taste them, take a few bites, spit it out. If it's hot, if it tastes like coconut, there's all kinds of smells and tastes. Learn those things and that'll help. All right, So Boletes bicolor is probably the most common bolete in Connecticut, and it's edible, but you have to be careful with this. There are people that have trouble digesting this bolete, and there is apparently a couple boletes that look very much like this bolete that can get you sick. So you want to be more confident in your ability to eat wild mushrooms like this before you eat very much. First time you try a new mushroom, try a small amount of it. And don't eat anything else. And just let a whole day go by to see what happens. If you tolerate it well, then next time try a couple more. Don't mix up a whole bunch of different boletes like I did last night. You know, that's really just not a good practice at all. So anyway, I like to do this, but I don't like to do all the talking because we have so many members that have so much to offer you. So I'm going to ask Connie to just pick up my thread here and tell you all how she goes about finding mushrooms and identifying them.